Howdy, Immortalium here, and today I'm doing a review of Persona 4, the animation. Now, before I start talking about this series, I'd best talk quickly about my relationship to the game it is based on. So anyone who has checked out the video game playlist, video game review to be more specific, you will see that the second video I did, or the second game I reviewed, was Persona 4. I actually do review video games. I know not too many of you actually watch those reviews. And I would highly recommend that people go and check them out, you know. I would recommend them because, you know, I like making them. Anyway, point is, I've reviewed Persona 4, and to this date, I would say it's probably the best video game that I've played since I started, you know, reviewing video games on YouTube. It is just superb. So I'd highly recommend anyone check that out. Now, the anime, which, you know, adapts the game into a television series, you know, what is my opinion on that? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's start off with the plot. So we have our lead character, who you can see over here, called Yu Naokami. And Yu has just arrived in the town of Inaba. The reason that he has arrived here is his parents have moved away to another country, I believe for work, but we don't know too much about his parents. Anyway, Yu will be staying with his uncle and his cousin, the Dojima family. And while he's there, he comes across these other people while he's at a high school. Such characters as Yosuke, Chie, Yukiko, Kanji, Rise, Naoto. And while all this is happening, there is a murder case going on. Basically, someone is killing people and, you know, leaving their bodies up on, you know, buildings upside down. And the police can't figure out, you know, who's doing this. You know, there is no sign of, you know, injuries or any way that they could die. So they're confused about that. There's no evidence, you know, no DNA samples, nothing. So they have nothing to go on. Now, while all this is happening, there is a channel that comes on at midnight on rainy days. Well, rainy nights to be more specific. When your TV's off. And it's called the Midnight Channel. And Yu realizes that when he looks at it, that he can see the next person that'll be the victim in the case. So he also, at the time, figures out that he has this special power where he can actually enter into the TV. And he and his friends gained this power called Persona, which is gained by confronting their darker selves, the kind of darker aspect of their personalities, and, you know, accepting them. And they use these personas in order to fight back the shadows that lie in this TV realm, with the assistance of this kind of a bear costume guy called Teddy. And that's how it begins. So basically their goal is to, you know, discover who is the murderer, to save the lives of people who are in this TV world. And yeah, so that's how it progresses. So, let's start off with the story. So, you know, what did I think of the story? The story itself is very engaging, most of the time. Okay, so, in order to explain the story, I'm going to need to explain an aspect of the video game, and that is, there is a kind of a day system, you know. So, there's a social aspect to the game, and there's also the kind of standard RPG, or JRPG, kind of dungeon crawling. So you can choose to spend your day, you know, going around socializing, which will build up your social links, which will allow you to create stronger persona when you fuse the cards together. I know it's kind of complicated sounding, but let's just keep going. Or you can go into the TV and, you know, fight monsters and level up and possibly rescue people, as well as getting more loot, etc., etc. So episodes are interestingly split up between these kind of social events and these kind of dungeon crawling, and the contrast is not as well done in the anime as it is in the video game. And basically, some episodes are devoted entirely to the TV world, with the characters traveling through these dungeons, facing the shadows, fighting them, confronting their darker selves and, you know, the victims' darker selves, and, you know, rescuing them and, you know, progressing, and as well as getting clues relating to the murder case. While other episodes are focused pretty much exclusively on, you know, a character. You know, for example, you know, there might be this guy who is, you know, into basketball. There might be this girl who, you know, wants to be pretty and considers herself pretty, but, you know, still feels like that she isn't well respected. You know, this woman this old lady who feels that, you know, she lost her love for her husband before he passed away, etc., etc. And these episodes pretty much just focus on those people, those characters, who are not necessarily integral to the overall plot, but through the forging of a relationship with the lead character, you know, allow him to be able to summon different persona, which help him in the midst of battle. So that's how that works. And I believe that the actual story, you know, going after the murderer, you know, pursuit in the dungeons, etc., very well handled. But the social aspects could have been handled a little better. You know, if they had a bit more, you know, episodes, I guess they could have actually, you know, adapted them more. I don't want to say correctly, because, you know, it's not like they were incorrect in the way that they adapted these, but they had to kind of compress, you know, various social relationships into a very brief space of time. In particular, this area where he develops 5 relationships in the course of 2 episodes, which, you know, I do find a bit excessive. So I think it could have been handled a little better, that social aspect, but overall the story does work. I just want to point that out. Now, the characters themselves, as I said, we follow you know, a party into these dungeons, and these characters must confront their fears, their, you know, when I say fears, I mean the fears of themselves, you know, these kind of darker, hidden aspects. And the characters are very engaging. In the video game, he was kind of very much dictated by the player, and in terms of his personality. So I was kind of wondering how they would portray him in this TV series. But he's actually a very cool character. A very kind of restrained, very calm. Doesn't usually shout. But he's also very, you know, clever. Very willing to stick up for his friends and save them. And one thing I really liked is he has this very nice dry humor about it, where a character will be talking to him and then he just says something very quick, and you know, most people don't actually pay attention to what he says there, but I get a chuckle out of him. So I really like the way that he was handled overall. They didn't make him overly animated, which was great because that doesn't contrast with his character from the video game, but they made him into a very charming, pleasant character. Yosuke, which is the male friend, the first male friend that Yu has, is a bit of a goof. You know, he goofs around. He's not overly serious, but he does have this darker side to him. You know, where you know, a lot of people kind of don't you know, respect him, and you know, he feels really annoyed about that. And the people that do respect him, he feels that the only reason they respect him is because of the fact that he is the son of the manager of a large store in Inaba called Junez. They're reliant on him in order to, you know, kind of progress. So, you know, he does have his darker and more serious side, which is nice. You know, he's a deep enough character. Chie is this kind of tomboyish girl who, again, has to confront kind of that aspect of herself. The fact that she isn't necessarily overly cute, and you know, she looks at all these other girls who are looking cute, and you know, she feels jealous, etc., etc. Anyway, she is a very charming character again. You know, she you know, is willing to stick up for her friends. She has a lot more kind of tough girl than a lot of the other female members in the cast, so I ended up liking her. Yukiko also has her charm. Yukiko is the daughter of a family that runs this kind of old-style inn in Inaba. But she has some difficulties with that. But overall, you know, she is a very logical thinker. She has these laughing fits every so often, which are kind of funny. And overall, she's a nice character. Kanji. Kanji is a character who you're going to wonder about his sexuality for a little while. He's a real tough guy. You know, he likes to fight against... well, he doesn't like to fight against... He does fight against biker gangs. You know, he kind of dresses up a bit like punkish, etc., etc. But he, you know, he's a nice guy deep down, and that might actually possibly be why he ends up struggling in that area, that sexuality. Now, Rize is a bit of an issue here, and of all the main cast is probably the one that I like the least. Rize is this kind of an idol, or an iduru, as the Japanese put it. And, you know, she's kind of decided to quit her job, or at least, you know, take leave for a while, and just go back to Inaba and just kind of figure out what she wants to do with her life. And, you know, that aspect of her is very interesting, you know, and she is a deep character, but at that point, but by the end of the series, she's pretty much just that girl who has fallen in love with you for, like, not a particular reason, I guess I should just say. I guess in the game, there was a bit more time for them to develop, so I guess that makes more sense there. But in the anime series, it feels a bit kind of odd that she's suddenly fallen in love with him. So yeah, I just have a bit of an issue with that. Naoto is this guy who, he's a kind of a detective, and he has to struggle with an aspect of himself. Again, it's a bit of a twist, to be more specific, and you know, Naoto is actually a really cool character. You know, cool, calm, collected, has access to some kind of police files, some police interviews, etc., etc. So I like Naoto overall. And the final character I will touch upon in such focus, I know there's so many of them, and you know, just keep patient, is a character called Teddy. And Teddy is a character who the cast meet in the TV world. He's kind of like this kind of odd-looking bear suit kind of guy, and he kind of has the struggle of you know, kind of origin, his of identity, but at the same time he's a bit of an innocent pervert. And I actually kind of like that, because I've seen all kinds of perverts in anime, but I haven't really seen too many of the innocent kind. Not only that, but he's just a charming character. You know, he really does care for these people he's met. He wants to help them. He likes, you know, kind of exploring, you know, the differences between this world and the TV world. So overall, he's a very likable character. So I spent a bit long there on the characters. Sorry about that. As I said before, there's a large variety of other characters. But in comparison to the video game, they don't get as much time, I would say, with a couple of exceptions. So I believe that while the main cast are pretty much kind of okay, from the video game to the TV series, there are a couple of kind of casualties in terms of character development of others. Now, the animation. The animation was done by a studio... God, I'm trying to recall the name. I don't really know them too much. I think Asta, is that the name? Anyway. They were in charge of the animation for this series. And the animation... How can I put it now? It was good. Okay, so let's start off with the actual look of the series. It's very much captured the look of Persona 4, with the characters having their great character designs from the video game. In particular, this guy, I can't remember who's the character designer for Atlus games, but anyway, he's in charge, and they capture that very well. Not only that, but they capture the kind of almost insane TV world very well. So from an overall look of the series, it looks like the video game. The animation, okay, so the actual action scenes, they're very well handled. They're fluid, they're clean, they're crisp. They're not problematic at all. So, you know, I liked the animation in the fight scenes. With the exception of this one, I think it was the first time you does a fusion. The frame rate was really choppy, which I found quite annoying. Which is particularly interesting because actually later in the series, when he does his next fusion, they've actually solved that frame rate issue. So I don't know if it was a time constraint or something. But anyway, overall, in general, the fight scenes are very well handled. When it comes to the more social episodes and scenes, though, the characters are a bit stiff. They have a tendency to just kind of stand there and just, you know, talk. Not really much movement from them. Now they do, you know, kind of express themselves very often, but I do think that from a, you know, animation perspective, it's kind of cheap, the animation for the actual social scenes, which I did find a bit disappointing. So, yeah, that's what I'm just going to say. So overall, the animation is good. Just, you know, it's not out of this world. It could have been better. But, you know, for where it counts, it does work. You know, you're not going to go into this and really say, oh, this is bad animation, with the one exception of that first fusion scene. Now, the voice cast, I watched this in English because of the fact that, you know, I played a video game in English. Not only that, but I generally just prefer watching English dubs in general, as long as they're good. And the English dub is very good for this series. Johnny Young Bosch voices you, you know, you have Yuri Yawenthal voicing Yosuke. I believe, what's her name again? The one who played Rei Ayanami. She voices Yukiko. Oh, God, I can't remember her name. But anyway, she voices her. And, you know, like, you know, there's a lot of other, you know, great voice actors in this. The problem that some people might face with this, though, is that the voice cast has changed a bit from the original video game. At least the PS2 version. Golden, I believe, used the same voice cast as this. But from the original video game, there is a couple of changes. Not as major as you would think, though. Chie sees the biggest change in voice, in my opinion. You know, I can't exactly remember what her voice was like in the original video game, but I remember taking note of the difference when she was first introduced in this series, so I did find that a bit jarring. The other characters, Teddy also has a voice change. I can't remember who voices him now, but I didn't see as much of a difference to the point where if I hadn't known that there was a voice cast change, you know, in terms of Teddy, I would not have noticed. Naoto also has a bit of a voice cast change. He's voiced by Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, as some might know as the Major from Ghost in the Shell. What an interesting choice. I don't know who, I think it's unknown who voices Naoto in the original video game. I know Mary Elizabeth McGlynn goes uncredited, interestingly, in this series, so anyway. And the last major voice cast change that I could spot was for actually Kanji. When I say voice cast change, what I mean is he actually, for the first 13 episodes, he's actually voiced by Troy Baker. But for the last 13 episodes, he's voiced by Matthew Mercer. The thing is, I would not have noticed the change, oddly enough. Matthew Mercer really sounds like Troy Baker. Now, whether or not, you know, he sounds like that in general, or that he, you know, has actually, you know, kind of tried to change his voice in order to match Troy Baker, I would not have noticed the difference. So, you know, I believe that, you know, I would have preferred, of course, for Troy Baker to have gone through entirely, but, you know, they made pretty much the best possible decision when it comes to having to change mid-season, so that's great. Now, regarding the Japanese, the American version of, is it just Blu-rays? I think it is. Don't have Japanese version. That's just something I should point out. And I believe the DVDs in America might have the Japanese version, but I know for the Blu-rays they don't. I think it was to kind of reduce reverse importing. Now, the UK versions that I watched actually have both versions. Due to the fact that, you know, the UK uses a different region code for Blu-rays than the Japanese do. So both versions are on this, English or Japanese. So if you're concerned about there being no Japanese on the UK version, you know, don't worry about it. I don't know which version the Australian versions use. I would assume the Sentai transfer, in which case it would just have the English version on there, but I'm not entirely sure. So if you're from Australia and you've seen Persona 4 the animation, you know, I would like to hear, is it available in Japanese over there? So besides that, we have a couple of extras on these discs. The first box set actually contains the director's cut of the first episode. Basically, you know, a couple of additional scenes. And we also have, you know, the teasers and trailers, opening, ending, Japanese TV spot. Something I want to point out, the omake drama is very weird. What I mean by that is the omake drama is actually, like, there's a TV on in the background at the Dojima household, which is where Yu is living. You know, in many of the scenes, and it's the kind of very crude animation that's playing quite often on that TV, except for in key scenes. So the kind of background animation thing, which I actually watched, I think it was just the first episode of it, and I actually found it really annoying. So I guess it's good that they put it on there, but I don't really see too much value in it. And then the other thing to point out is that the final box set has the OVA on it, so which contains the true ending. I guess I was about to quote there, but you know, it is a true ending. So just want to put that out. So overall, what do I think of Persona 4 the animation? It is a very good series. Now I prefer the video game to it, so if you can get the video game, I would recommend you play that first. But if you're unable to get the video game, which I believe the PS2 version, you know, available for PS2, and I think backward compatible for, you know, a certain few versions of the PS3, and then, you know, incompatible on other ones. And then there's also a PS Vita version for the yeah, PS Vita, which I hear is a really good you know, version of it. So I would recommend you get those if you can. If you cannot, this is actually a very good version of it to get anyway. So I would highly recommend you pick up the series if you're unable to, you know, get the video game. And if you've played the video game, you know, this is a different experience. So, you know, it's very nice to see. So overall, would I recommend Persona 4 the animation? Yeah, I would definitely. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and bye-bye.